Ah yes, the cutesy little playful pair. Chikorita, while stance is a bit boring, actually does look great. The happy little face and the hop that it does brings out the character to me, even if it's just a little subtle thing. The leaf also feels like an attachment to the body and not just awkwardly there, which I like. Fatal Leaf at first glance doesn't look great. Without the animation, I would say it's the most boring sprite simply because in the past it is shown on two legs playing around and not just standing. But with the animation, it changes everything. It incorporates the positions of previous sprites and makes it do those things within it, which is awesome. Meganium is the same way, though I love the pose and smile it has. The animation does just enhance it to a whole new level. While this line isn't perfect, I do say it is a wonderful treatment to a line that's just not well received because of its capabilities. 9 out of 10. Cyndaquil looks adorable here, though it doesn't beat the adorableness of the Gen 3 sprite, but besides that, honestly, one of the things I kind of wish was played with more was the fire. And this would go for the rest of the evolution line, but I wish it interacted more with the movement of Cyndaquil instead of just being there glowing. Like at its peak, maybe have it bigger than at its normal lowest, because it kind of just flickers, and that's about it. Cool Lava looks good, but its animation is just awkward. I like the pose of it kind of having bent down using the flames as an intimidation tactic, but the little butt raise is just funny to me and it's too quick to be intimidating. Looking at Typhlosion's previous sprite, it doesn't change much besides getting angled a bit differently, and honestly that's fine as this pose is kind of perfect to show off Typhlosion. So no need to change it. The animation is a little lackluster, but there is something about the Royal War that actually makes Typhlosion look like a tough opponent to fight against. Now, this line may look good, but it does need work with the flames and animations. 7 out of 10. Okay, so Totodile just actually is one of the most adorable little things ever with his Gen 5 sprite. It just cutely wobbles, and then that leap reminds me heavily of Ash's Totodile anime. It also just has no thoughts going on in its head. Croconaw is funny. I think the sprite does something kind of interesting. It shows itself as maturing, but also still carries over the playful side of Totodile, which is something I like to see in a middle evolution. It's going through the changes. Feraligatr actually changed a lot before its current appearance. While it does keep similar poses, its big change is actually from its mouth. It becomes a lot more slimmer and defined than before, which also just makes it look better and cooler. Though I wish the animation just did more for it. The Totodile line goes from a silly little guy to a tough dude, and it just works great. 9 out of 10. I still find it funny that every single sprite of Sentret has it on its tail, and then its model just decided, no more. Honestly, for being the second best rodent Pokemon, Sentret does look great in Gen 5. Everything looks so smooth as it tries to keep its balance and not fall over. And I'm glad they finally brought it back to its darker color palette, to which was taken away for a while for some reason. Anyways, Sentret looks adorable. Oh wait, it's not walking. And I hate to say it, but the sprite is just so bland. Some of its past sprites give it so much of a playful personality, but here it's just toned down a ton. It's still cute and adorable, but still kinda sucks. I'm just majorly disappointed. Sentret continues to be great, but there is no reason to tone down fur as much. 7 out of 10. Okay, so why does Hoo-Hoo have one of the coolest animations? Like, it's just so good for one of the most forgettable original birds. The little hop is just a great way to incorporate the diamond and pearl / platinum stripes, because for some reason they both face different ways. The spray itself also looks good too. Noctowl's animation isn't as jumpy, but still has the back and forth movement, except now it's more studious or elegant. I don't know how to properly word for it, which I still like a lot. I'm glad when it comes to the sprites though, they took more inspiration from the Sinnoh games and not Heart Gold Soul Silver, because well, he just looks so much scarier with that glare it gives. So anyways, Hoo-Hoo is cool and Noctowl is as well. 8 out of 10.
Ladybug is like a classic old-timey cartoon that made its way into Pokemon. With its goofy old eyes and white gloves on its legs, its Gen 5 animation is just so cute but animatronic as well, and I think it's so fun and neat. Ledian's movement is what makes me not the biggest fan of it. In the past, Ledian makes itself tougher and more intimidating than it actually is, because with an attack stat of 35 and a special attack stat of 55, it's not that tough. But to me, the animation just makes it look strange. Like it's neither tough nor weak, but just kinda there. And for whatever reason, I don't like that. And it loses that old-timey cartoon vibe that Ladybug gives. They're okay, but just off. 6 out of 10. Spinarak sprite doesn't actually change that much throughout the years, but it's a good sprite and pose, showing off that fake face on his back, so understandable why the little change. The animation confuses me though. I think it's meant to be skittering around, but the leg movement just doesn't look right to me. The little stop to breathe thing is nice though. Ariados, I think, looks great. The little sway back and forth feels like an actual spider trying to intimidate its foe. Even the enlargement of its second half is a nice touch to that. I do feel like it doesn't fully know what to do with the top of its arms, and that is a little disappointing. Overall, the Spinarak line looks good for what they are. 8 out of 10.
Tell me, did you forget that Chinchou is Gen 2? Because I do that all the time. I mean, it is most prevalent in Gen 3, but we're not talking about that generation. Only the 5th. Chinchou's Gen 5 sprite is cute and floaty, which is basically every fish, but makes a lot of sense as it lives so deep underwater. That's why I tend to like it a lot. Lantern, on the other hand, what is it doing with its mouth? It's actually disturbing for me to look at, which sucks, because I like Lantern, but between that face movement and the constant flickering lights, it just seems wrong. Now, Chinchou is nice and cute, but oh my god, why Lantern? 6 out of 10. Togepi is just a thing coming out of its egg. Nothing more, nothing less. But in Gen 5, they've really had to up the adorableness of this guy. That little dance it does is just so cute. Reminds me of like a little kid being a ballerina. It fits perfectly with Togepi. Now, Togetic isn't as cute, and seems to just like get down on the dance floor. But one thing I do find kind of crazy is that it originally used to be gold. You know, like the color of Togepi and not the egg. But for some reason in Crystal, they decided to make it white instead. Which now makes me think how cool Golden Togetic could have been. And the Gen 5 sprite is just meh now, color-wise. Togekiss isn't that crazy, literally only gaining an animation from Gen 4. And while it is just gliding around gracefully, that's about it. It isn't that interesting to look at, and it feels as if it were just made to be made. Togepi starts off strong, and other two just don't seem to keep up sprite-wise. 7 out of 10. Natu is just a ball with a beak with wings too small that it can't fly. Natu would be perfect for tiny wings. Oh, you don't remember that game? Oh well. I do like this sprite expresses how it walks. It's a cute little march and then does a little dance like it's begging for food, which is adorable and accurate to its character. Natu, on the other hand, I'm a bit disappointed. Its whole thing is that it stands still, looks in the distance, and doesn't move. However, here it is making large swaying movements. And the end animation not opening the wings like the big Eureka moment I've seen, and it just instead perks up a little bit, is disappointing, as the past sprites have displayed this. Natu is in character, but sadly, Xatu just doesn't seem to be. 7 out of 10. Honestly, I really like Mareep's Gen 5 sprite. It may not be as playful or battle ready as its past sprites have proven to be, but it's cute and fluffy, basically everything it needs to be. Flaffy's animation is actually quite good. It's just a little dance that brings out a lot of its character. Even the little ruffling the wool as it's statically charged is just adorable to look at. I think Game Freak did well with this one. Ampharos is okay, but I just don't understand the movements. Like it goes into the clap and then the forward lean and wiggle. I just can't think of a correlation between the two as they just seem so different and unrelated. But other than that, the sprite itself is alright. The Mareep line is a beloved one that is almost on everyone's Johto team. And Gen 5 looks wise, they continue to prove that. I do wish their tails glowed though, as it seemed possible with the Chinchou line, but oh well. 9 out of 10. Ah yes, Meryl, the Poke clone of the second generation. And first I want to say I think it was a good thing they didn't use the Platinum sprite to animate because, oh my god. Meryl in Gen 5 though is a happy little fella. I do enjoy it quite a bit, and it's nicely symmetrical, which is appealing. Azurill keeps this up, and I don't know why, but the tail dragon with the in-place walk-in just brings me a lot of dopamine. Azurill is funny. This is the only instance where the battle sprite is sad. Every other Azurill sprite is happy and joyful, but nope, for this generation, it's sad. And honestly, it just looks uncanny with the animation to me. It just doesn't feel right at all, and I can't get past it. Meryl and Azurill live up their character in a great way with their animations. However, I just can't look past Azurill. 7 out of 10. Sudowoodo tries so hard to be a tree, and it actually does a great job at attempting that. Its movement is like a perfect mix of you can't see me and branches swaying in the wind, and I think if he just wasn't so obviously not a tree, this would be perfect representation of what Sudowoodo would be. Bonsai is exactly like this as well. The top swaying back and forth like a sapling in the wind, while also being just weirdly cute about it. Sudowoodo and Bonsai are the perfect mimics here. 10 out of 10. Immediate reaction to looking at Hoppip is flapping? Aren't his leaves supposed to rotate like a helicopter and not flap like it has wings? I get how what they animate these guys is hard to make rotation movements, but man is that weird to see. At least it's something the model got correctly. And yeah, one thing I noticed is just how demonic it looks with his eyes. This is apparently a trend with the past sprites too, I just never noticed before. But somehow I still like it. Skiploon again doesn't rotate his flower, which I would like to see but isn't necessary, so I get why they didn't do it. I do find it funny that it just looks like it's constantly falling, despite staying afloat. Jump up is cool, I like it. At least it never went back to his soul being sucked away like in Silver, but it holds its cute and fluffiness, which is something I always admired in Jumpluff. The Hoppip line kind of looks scary at some points, but I do believe they look the least scary in Gen 5. Just needs more rotation to them. 7 out of 10. Apom. Oh boy, definitely didn't forget this guy was a Pokemon. Anyhow, I'm not too impressed. Apom is supposed to be a silly little monkey with a hand on its tail, and here it just does an idle bounce up and down. And that's it. It's almost like they too forgot about it and how to quickly make a sprite. Ambipom isn't much better. It does look more ready for battle, and it does a little bit more than just Bob, so I will give it that, but it doesn't have that much more to it. Apom and Ambipom I feel are missing the big charm to their characters, and it's not great to me. 5 out of 10. Sunkern is one of those Pokemon that has so little to it that it's kind of hard to make generational changes to it. All that's really new with the sprite is the animation, which isn't anything special because how do you animate a seedling besides just a wiggle? But here it does just exactly that. Sunflora is where its character finally gets to shine through and be different. And I love how much the movement fits to it. While it wasn't what I originally thought it would be, I have to say it looks better than what I was thinking. Sunkern and Sunflora are such strange Pokemon and don't have much change as it's not really needed, and have already reached capacity. 10 out of 10. I've recently started liking Yanma a lot. I don't know if it's because I started thinking about how cool dragonflies are, but it's just so cool. I'm glad whatever happened in Gen 3 stayed in Gen 3 because it just looks so out of place compared to the rest of the sprites. But the Gen 5 sprite is just so cool. The arms move in quick rapid succession with the flying movement is just lovely to watch. Yanmega is the same way. It feels like I'm watching a real life dragonfly up close and personal. One thing I wish I was included in animation was the little attack phase that the Platinum chart uses, but that's okay I guess. Yanma and Yanmega are beautiful to look at. 9 out of 10. Wooper has such an adorable unawareness to it. This Pokemon just lives happily in its own lane and nothing around it can dampen its mood. Just a happy little guy. I like it a lot. Now, Quagsire though is a bit different. For the first time it's opened its arms out wide. Well, Technically not the first time, it's just the same sprite as the Heart Gold Soul Silver one, but animated, which I don't really think fits with the character of Quagsire. It's very mobile and quick, which is the opposite of what Quagsire normally is, and that bothers me quite a bit. Hooper has such a great unawareness and vibe to it, I have no idea why Quagsire lost that. 7 out of 10. Murkrow is supposed to have a cynical, conniving appearance to it, but I just don't get that here. It just looks like a crow rocking back and forth. Not like the Gen 3 sprite where it's more inviting, but you can still kind of tell it's up to no good. I don't really know if that makes sense, but it's what I think. Anyways, it makes it look stupid and not smart, which I would hope be the opposite. Honchkrow, on the other hand, I like a lot. The simple little arm wave drives the point that's showing that it is in charge and can command at will, which is just so perfect with his character. It's also the first one to combine 2 sprites into his animation, and I think that is super cool. Murkrow lacks the sinister side, while Honchkrow for sure takes charge. 8 out of 10. Mischievous actually looks great here. Its eyes and facial expression just scream ready for some mischief. It's dark but yet somehow still playful. I also like the color they decided to stick with here, because for whatever reason Mischief struggles with that. So funny enough, Miss Magius has only one sprite, and Diamond and Pearl is flipped on its y-axis, but besides that it hasn't changed. Though I do find it scarier in Diamond and Pearl than the rest. That might just be me though. In Generation 5 they added animation, but even then it's just a simple floating one that doesn't do anything special. I am just a bit meh with it, honestly. Mischievous looks dark, while Miss Magius is yeah. 7 out of 10. There are 28 different forms of Unknown. So, am I going to show all of them? Of course I am, but all at the same time. Now, they aren't all that unique to each other with the animations, but they do still all move to a reasonable way of their shape. Which I'm surprised they did, because that's a lot of Unknown to make and animate. The sprite itself is nice as well. The color isn't ugly and looks good with the kind of glossy look. This is basically Unknown at its peak for a 2D sprite. Also, the K is my favorite one because it looks like a fish. 10 out of 10. Elbafet, the decoy Pokemon. Well, at least that's the rumor. Anyhow, I enjoy the sprite a lot. The wave and just friendly appearance brings big inspiration from the anime, which isn't something you see that much from the games. Though I don't know why, I wish it kind of positioned itself like the Silver Sprite because I just find this one so cool, and it kind of reveals the truth of the theory. Now, why not looks good, but I feel like the lack of use of its ears, arms, I don't know, is kind of a bummer. Like, they should make it more excited like this Gen 4 Sprite, and then I would appreciate it more. Both are good overall, but why not could just be better. 8 out of 10. I'm just going to quickly talk about Girafair's Gen 5 sprite. I love the tail end just gnawing at the air like a dummy, and then the other side is just a bit posed and vibing. Also, I love the little air kick. 9 out of 10. Why does Pineco look like it's from an arcade style game? The way they sprited the lighting just doesn't feel like it belongs in these games. Not that it doesn't look insanely cool, it's just so out of place. Besides that though, I do like that it's bouncing on its own bottom stem. I feel like it's Pokemon they would have made floating, but I'm glad they decided to actually make it touch the ground. And it looks like a pogo stick with how it bounces. Fortress has such a nice animation. It has such a cool mechanical feel to it. The way it moves drives home that point. It's a movable fortress that is capable of defending itself. Though, funny enough, fire is its worst enemy. Pineco doesn't look like this generation, but it still is cool. While Fortress is a mechanical treat. 8 out of 10. The great evolution of Dunsparce. One of the derpiest and greatest Pokemon designs of all time. Now ends with its last and final sprite, and it's wonderful. The constant wiggle butt and light fluttering of the wings is just so adorable, while also being slow and nonchalant about it as well. Its origin may not be fully known, but dang, I honestly enjoyed this final product. 10 out of 10. Gligar isn't in the air, that's new, but honestly I'm glad they decided to go this route instead of having it awkwardly fly in the air. Gligar is also a Pokemon that has struggled with color identity, but I think the pink that it's landed on is pretty cool. And the animation is cute too if it's a little dance. Gliscor looks super cool. The way it flies doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but I love the greedy snapping of its claws and just the way its full sinister look to it. It's scary, but also badass. Gligar and Gliscor are some of my favorite Pokemon designs. Glad to see them do strongly in Gen 5. 9 out of 10. Snowball actually does look a little cute here, which is surprising. Of course, they didn't hide that aggressive mean side to it as well, but overall, I like it. Gramble actually looks so badass here. I've never really liked his design, but it surprised me here. It's truly taken his character to a max. I don't usually like Snubbull and Gramble, but here, they are a delight. 9 out of 10. Quillfish looks okay. The lips being separate from the body with the movements kind of freaks me out. I know they are a dominant feature, but I just don't like it. But who knows, maybe you do. I kind of wish it puffed up, then floated up, instead of floating up, puffing, and then floating down. I just think it makes more sense to me in how air works. But who am I to say? 6 out of 10. It's Shuckle time! Of course, Shuckle is a big meme Pokemon, but this guy generally is a cool design. It's just so goofy as well. Though I do kind of wish it kept the awkwardness of a Gen 2 sprite, but overall, it's okay. The animation isn't anything crazy, and it's kind of lackluster, but I don't honestly expect much from it, so it's fine. 8 out of 10. I have never looked at Beetles up close and personal, but I assume Heracross fits its vibe well. The soullessness in the eyes, also the tough guy body posture, is just crazy to see, while also having this twitchy bug effect. It's weird but also mesmerizing, and I love it. 10 out of 10. I always thought Sneasel looked like a sleek, cool design. But gosh, why does the sprite not show that? Okay, this one does. But for Generation 5, it just isn't. It just holds his arm out and does a little scratch, which is cat-like, but not something I would think for Sneasel. I just wish it looked tougher. Now, Weavile looks tough and ready. It wants to go at it with all it's got. You can feel that pepped up energy about to burst into battle. It's slick and wants to win. Sneasel is a work in progress, but I truly see what shines in Weavile. 7 out of 10. There isn't a single sprite of Teddiursa that isn't an absolute banger. I mean, just look at it. It's adorable. The hand over the face, the ear, and the tail wiggle. First one is kind of awkward, but yet it kind of always has been. It's okay here, which is still an improvement. The animation isn't anything exciting, but it's not ugly. I do like the anger it shows with the roar and how aggressive it is with it, a fear only a parent could bring. So that's neat. Honestly, Ursula's design shouldn't make it this awkward in sprite form, but Teddiursa looks great. 7 out of 10. Slugma is one of those Pokemon that I tend to forget is from Generation 2. I mean, it's mostly seen in Gen 3 and barely in Gen 2, like Houndour. But his Gen 5 design is good. It's simple and sleek. One thing I do think it kind of lacks is the goopy lava drip you would expect from it, with maybe more movement on its bubbles. But I don't think that's plausible with how they animated it. Magcargo tries to do something with a little flame out of its shell, and I like it, but honestly I wish it had the same facial features it had in Gen 2 and 3. I think that the little derpiness is awesome and is missing from this sprite. Anyways, they are snails, and as good as one as that. 8 out of 10. Okay, Swinub is a bit hard to judge since it's kind of just a giant hairball with a pig nose, but not in the ugly way. But here it's a bit basic. I do wish it had a bit more movement with its fur, but the tugging of the nose is cute enough to ignore that. Piloswine basically is upgraded from hairball to hairbale. I do enjoy the movement of it, the ears flopping, and even its eyelids, at least that's what I think they are, showing its hidden eye ever so slightly. It's a nice touch that I like quite a bit. Everything just flows nicely. Mammothswine is where it finally takes form in a mammoth no trunk. I like that it isn't quick but is quite slow. Its movement ain't crazy, but it shows off its size and strength, which is funny because I find it cute. The Swinub love finds itself in a good place for Generation 5. 9 out of 10. Okay, how does Corsola go from this to this? Then yeah, this one, the main one, getting reviewed. I mean, the leap between the last one isn't bad, but wow, it looked strange in Gen 2. But besides that, here in Gen 5, it looks good. Its little mouth is what shines the most to me. The happy little, like, whoa face. Yeah, that's all I got. 8 out of 10. I always find it funny that Remoraid was supposed to be a literal gun, and then they decided to just make it a normal fish. In Gen 5, I like how the animation somewhat references it with its fins, though it looks more like a bow getting loaded before shooting. I guess it works. Octillery is the same thing. It's supposed to be part tank, now full octopus. I think it's awesome that its animation represents the Fire Emblem canon. 8 out of 10. I think Delibird has grown a lot from its original Gen 2 sprite, and in Gen 5, it just looks nice. They could have gone a more actionable approach, having its big animation shuffling through its bag, but instead it's kind of just a body wave, which works but isn't as cool. 7 out of 10. Mantine looks simple and elegant with that derpy old face of it. I like how the animation kind of represents his ability to fly and also swim with how it flaps his wings. Fins? Whatever one would call those. Mantek is literally just a younger, more energetic version, which is perfectly fitting for a baby Pokemon. 8 out of 10. It's funny to me how Skarmory goes from a bird that is interested in whatever you're doing to just trying to be imposing for a few generations, to not wanting to shake his steely feathers, like a weirdo. But I do like how it shows that its wings aren't fully attached to each other, which shows a strong technique of having to hold them all together when actually flying. 8 out of 10. Houndour's first appearance with the red glow truly shows its ability to be a hound from hell. Sadly, in future games, they've lost this glow, not that it doesn't look bad, but just could have been cooler. Here in Gen 5 though, it looks mean and tough, and that bend down and bark is just absolutely awesome. Honestly shows the dog in it. Houndour for some reason loses that edge, and does a strange retreat bark thing. If it was doing that to go into a cool howl, it would be better, but it doesn't. It's lost too much of its fiery touch. 7 out of 10. Phanpy has always been an adorable little elephant. Especially its Sinnoh sprites, it's just adorable. But here in Unova, I'm glad it keeps that. The little sway back and forth with the trunk tuck is just a highlight of cuteness. Now of course Donphan is no longer cute and instead toughish. I find it strange knowing how large his ears are now because the movement truly puts it in perspective. Ears are almost the size of Dumbo's. But regardless of his ears, it does look good. The little sway of the scruff is cool as well. 8 out of 10. I never understood Stantler. I mean, it's a sidekick deer without the sidekick, and its past sprites have been just kind of funny as they are set in motion, especially its gold sprite where it's just floating, but its Gen 5 sprite is more static. I do think the random jump doesn't fit with this still motion since it appears to move forward but doesn't, and it's just hard to see. It does make it look like a deer, so I'll give it credit to that. 6 out of 10. Smeargle is the painter and uses his tail as a brush. So why does it look so awkward doing so in Gen 5? It looks so weird, but at least had the confidence to show its older sprites. It's such a shame they opted to make it boring and uninteresting. The use of both hands is what mostly kills it for me. 4 out of 10. I personally find it weird that Miltank is sitting down. Miltank is a Pokemon built to attack, but even as a Sportmon, I would assume it would be more battle ready, but also it's just goofy and weird enough that I kinda like it at the same time. 8 out of 10. Raiku's Gen 5 sprite kind of bothers me because it would be perfect for when it's in Johto due to it just looking like it wants to run and not bother fighting you. Like it's teasing you, you know it won't engage. However, it doesn't roam in Unova, and it just feels like a waste here. But I also do like how strong it looks. Also just waiting to see what you will do. A curious look of a true cat. And yes, I could say cat because they are technically beasts, not just dogs. But anyways, I like it a lot. 9 out of 10. I can't tell if Entei is meant to be elegant or a bit derpy, because in Heart Gold Soul Silver it looks bold and powerful and ready for confrontation, while here it just looks like it has special needs. Is that an okay thing to say? Probably not. Like, it's not a bad thing. Not every legendary needs to look strong and powerful. It just confuses me of where they want to go and portray Entei here. It just seems like it has an identity crisis throughout each generation. What did they want in this sprite? Just doesn't seem similar to how it's always been. 6 out of 10. Suicune is the most elegant and stoic version of the three beasts. It has a meaning of purification and carrying of the water world, and is also seen as the leader of the three. I believe the Gen 5 sprite does a fantastic job portraying this. It stands against the wind and lets it flow in its cape, showing the beauty of its ribbon things. And as we look at its past sprites, I believe that here, they just have finally grasped the image perfectly in its final sprite form. And I love it. 10 out of 10. The thing about Larvitar is that here, the angle they decided to use is so unflattering and different from everyone else. It's like a direct side view and doesn't even try to look at the opponent, instead to look in the distance. And I dislike it a lot. Keeper does look at his opponent. I mean, being just a cocoon, there isn't much to improve on from the previous generations besides basically the animations, which is a simple lean then head movement thing. Now, I believe that Tyranitar's biggest failure is his mouth being constantly open. It loses a bit of intimidation to me and instead just looks like it's panting and tired, while his previous generation is just more of a beast, something you do not want to mess with. 6 out of 10. I truly cannot comprehend this sprite for Lugia. I never literally saw Lugia as strong but graceful from its previous sprites, but somehow they made the body movements just that, and then kept the head so out of touch with the rest. Like, it's just funny looking. I want to take it seriously, but I just can't. I want to like it. I really do, but I just can't. 5 out of 10. Ho-Oh in Gen 2 is actually some peak Ho-Oh. And then Gen 3 rolled around and they decided it can only have one pose. At least in Gen 5 they decided to add the flapping to make it more flying movement, and I kind of like it. The lore of the game is trying to make a Ho-Oh some majestic creature. Then you see it and it's just an absolute whack job, especially here. It's kind of poetic, but not truly. But yeah, they could have maybe changed the pose to something better. 8 out of 10. Celebi is my favorite mythical Pokemon, and man does this Gen 5 sprite just work well for it. Its animation is adorable and just makes it look like a true onion fairy, and it would be basically perfect. However, for whatever reason, they decided to make its leggings the darker green that's always been, and still is in the back sprite, to a similar lime green as the rest of it. Why did they do this? I don't know, it makes no sense. 9 out of 10.